Okay, and I'm going to pull up my notes document. Alrighty, hello everyone, I'm Ren, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do a mashup slash upscale, and this will function also as an introduction to Blender and TexTools. So it'll be starting from like ground zero. I'm assuming you know absolutely nothing about what you're doing. If you do need a download for TexTools or Blender, I've got links right here in the class document notes. I think those have been linked already on the Discord if you would like to check those. Okay, I'm going to just keep moving, and you can come back to this later if you get left behind, but I'd recommend just taking notes for now. So this tutorial will be a from-scratch walkthrough of how to create a gear or hair mashup, it's the same process for both, which will also function as an introduction to Blender and TexTools. So, feature tour of TexTools, it's a little bit complicated to get started with. Also, this is your warning just for now. There is going to be some not safe for work mods that I will be installing because upscales require a base body, which does in fact require a nude body to be showing. So consider this your warning. I will not be mentioning that from here on out. But how to get started with TexTools? What I'm going to do, since I've been using TexTools, is start it over. So what this will do is it will wipe your entire installation, and it will give you a clean restart for you to build off of. If you use this as your main mod loader, then probably don't do this. And if you haven't used TexTools before, then there's no need to, but if you've been fiddling around with stuff, it's always good to start clean. So I will be waiting on TexTools, which may take up to 60 seconds, as it says. Alrighty, there we go. So first off, mod importer. This is how you get mods into TexTools. You go to mods, import mod pack. You can also check to see what mods you have installed with mod list, manage mod list. You can see we just have standalone, which is the files that we ourselves have messed with, which we don't have anything right now. So that is what we want because we just started over. So if we go to import mod pack, we can go find, oh dear, the body SE, if I can find it. My drives are a mess, don't look at me. But we've got what we want, so I'm just going to click through. I just want all the default options, so I'm just going to keep going on that. And it will import our mod pack for us. Success! Okay, so from here we're going to take a look at some of the functions of TexTools now that we've got that installed, just for later. So I'm going to show you, oh, we don't want that, we want gear. Let's see, ethereal, something or other, woolen shirt maybe. So this little text box is how you can search for things. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's categorized by like gear versus character items. So things you can equip versus things that are part of your character. Why is this taking so long to load? There we go. Okay, so here we will see our textures tab, which is where we start off with. You can see, we'll start from the top. You can have different textures for different races and genders. That's what the little drop down is for there. You can have different materials, which we will come back to. But basically what a material is it's a set of textures that combine to render over the model and change how the model looks. So sometimes you can get away with putting things on the same material if the textures are similar, but that would require image editing. But basically for mashups, materials are going to come in handy because you can copy them from one item to another. Up next is the textures. We have a diffuse texture, which is basically a flat color. Flat color map. We're going to go over to the model section so I can sort of gesture at things. But you'll see, like, that brown part corresponds to this brown part over here. The silver parts are silver on the diffuse. But yeah, diffuse is flat color. Normal, we're going to come back to that one. Specular is what color of light things reflect. So if it's going to reflect white light, then it will be white on the specular map. If it's going to be completely matte, then it will be black on the specular map. If it's going to do something fancy like reflect a color, that'll show up on the specular too. And then there's also another type of map that Final Fantasy uses. So diffuse and speculars are usually used for like old items. What items these days usually use are normal and multi-maps. So multi-map is a combination of multiple types of texture. So if we go over here to our TexTools reference, which I have linked right here, I just realized I didn't have to go to my bookmark, but I have it linked right here. It will tell you its shader reference table, among other things. It will explain how each color/data channel is used in each shader. So, for our standard gear shader, which is what we're using, the multi-map, the red channel is ambient occlusion, and the green channel is specular intensity. So, green, we just learned, specular. Specular is how strong the light is reflected. So you can see, if we click over here to just view the green channel, this is our specular map. If we click to just view the red channel, that's ambient occlusion, which is a term you will recognize if you do art. It's basically like shadows that are baked into the model. So shadows that are sort of flat and don't actually move with the light sources. So that's red, that's green. Blue is going to be gloss, which is kind of a weird concept, but oftentimes it's just going to look the same as the specular map. It's kind of like, oh, go away, sorry. It's kind of like how, well, I'll show you in just a second, because the other type of map that we have is a normal map, which if you have worked with 3D textures before, you will be familiar with this. If not, it is probably new and scary looking. First off, why is it blue? Well, that's because opacity is what the blue channel dictates. So the more blue, or the more white our blue channel is, rather, the more opaque it is. So if we have like little cutouts and stuff, then that's going to show up on the blue channel. And then red and green dictate light coming from the right side, basically, and the top, respectively. So what the normal map does is it adds like fake 3D details to things. So there isn't actually like a little bump on the model where this is, because that would be a lot of pixels to render, or a lot of vertices to render. However, you can make it look like there's a bump by adding texture to the normal map. And then the normal map also has one final function with its alpha channel. So what the alpha channel does is, it's black and white also, but it dictates which row in the color set that part of the texture will use. So the color set, we're going to take a look at it. It's going to look a little scary. It's got a lot of buttons for you to hit, a lot of descriptions, but essentially what it is, it's a collection of different rows of color, and each row looks a little bit different. And so you can pick a diffuse color, which is, as we said, flat color. We can pick a specular color, which is what color it reflects. For example, this one reflects orange light. This one reflects like reddish light. Emissive color, which is what color it emits, so whether it glows or not. Usually that's just going to be perfect black. Glossiness, which is, as I said, kind of an odd concept, but I'll show you right here what it does. So this is something with a gloss of 4. Here's what it looks like if we have gloss of 40, or if we have like gloss of, let's just go up to 10, versus 1, so 9. You can just fiddle around with it really and see what looks best if you're messing with things yourself. Tile material is basically an extra texture, so to give it like a fake cloth look. Tile count is how many sort of like iterations of that tile are going to show up. So basically the higher that number, the higher the resolution is going to be. You can see if I increase it from 64 to 32, or from 32 to 64 rather. And then the last thing that we see here is the die template. So what a die template does is it determines exactly how a die is going to interact with the this like portion of the cloth. So we can see preview die here. If we dye it ash gray, it's mostly just going to dye the specular. That's what die template, because our diffuse color is going to be black, so that's not really going to change much. But as a rule of thumb, let's go back to our reference for the color set reference table on our handy TexTools reference sheet. Nope, wrong one. Die template. There we go. So most follow the general rules, which is templates ending in 00 are default die colors. So like 500, like when you dye this shale brown, look, it looks shale brown. Default or dyes ending in 01 are darker than lighter or darker than default colors, and 02 are lighter than default colors. That's how you get sort of that variation in different things. And something else to note is that the higher the number is, the glossier it's going to look. So like 610 looks like this, or sorry, 600 is what we're looking for. 610, 612, 611. Yeah. That is about it for die templates. But apply to diffuse means apply to the flat color, apply to specular, apply to what color it reflects, apply to gloss, that'll change the glossiness. And once you're done fiddling around with this, something you always want to note is that it does have a save button that you need to click if you want to save your changes. I don't, so we're going to go over to the Models tab for now. Here we can see our random model that we've got. You can look at it. You can look at different parts of it. For example, just the skin in group 0 or just the clothing in group 1. You can see, excuse me, hiccups. You can see whether it's for male or female, and then also a variant for Highlanders, Rogadin, and then Lalafels. All have unique models. So generally you're going to be working with Midlander female or Midlander male, and it will transfer, your changes will transfer to all, oh, we actually have a tree for this. So things are inherited from Midlander male as a first priority, and then to Midlander female, and then they sort of branch out from there. Final Fantasy will accept and rescale models going down the tree, but not up it. So that is how that works. Alrighty, so from here, what we can do is we can export, import, and then this is just a refresh button. So what we want to do right now is we want to export something. I think what I'd like to do is get a couple items that I'd like to mash up. I'm just going to pick these at random because I didn't really think this through. Yeah, this is kind of a neat looking item. So get a couple items that I'd like to mash up, and then export them using export FBX. That is the main file format that we are going to be using. And then once it's exported, we can find it in our File Explorer with this little File button here, which will pull it up for you. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to find that one, and then, oh, what was that new one called? Yes, I remembered it. Okay. So then I am going to export this. And it can take a little bit if it's a high quality mesh, however, it should generally be pretty quick to export. And we're looking for, okay, so now we have our two bodies, however, we're also going to upscale it because we don't want those low poly, low poly everything on our visible skin portion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the small clothes, which is the body item that shows up when you unequip something. It has its own model, which is model number 0. And look, more polygons. Amazing. Okay, we're going to export that as an FBX2. Give it a second. This one will take longer because it's a modded model, so it has more, I don't know, chunk to it. Okay, we've got everything exported. I have a lot of stuff exported, but my computer hates me for it. But we are good to go in TexTools for the moment. We will come back to it when we want to import our model, but for now we are going to go over to our friend Blender. Blender is a free 3D modeling program, which it's not the industry standard, but it really should be, honestly. It's so intuitive. It's free, open source. It's got plugins. It's got, I don't know, less tiers than 3ds Max or ZBrush or Maya or whatever. Anything, pretty much, else, in my opinion. I will shout Blender's praises from the top of the mountains, but that is not what you signed up for. You signed up for, well, we'll start with import FBX, and I'm going to go find that file path that we just opened up, and there it is. Just double click, import it. We don't really need to mess with anything at this stage. Also, Blender controls. If you are new to this and it is not as intuitive, oh, sorry, I should be announcing my hotkeys. I'm just going to undo that for now. Undo is Control Z. You will get great use out of it. Yes, Control Z and Control Shift Z are your undo and redo buttons. Middle mouse button is rotate. Shift middle mouse button is pan. You can zoom in and out, obviously. You can right click to pull up a little menu. You can left click to select something and click off to deselect it. Something you'll see me do a lot is H to hide, which will remove an object from view without actually deleting it. So this right here is our viewport, this whole box area where we can view our item. And this thingy in the top right is called an outliner, and it sort of outlines various items for you that you can click on from here. This thing that I need to make smaller, this is the properties editor. So it's got like modifier properties, and it has material properties, which are kind of the two that we're going to be using the most. That's the blue wrench and the little orange checkered circle. Circle? Circle. Sphere. So that is kind of the introduction, quick and dirty, to our interface and how to sort of navigate just a little bit. So from here we're going to File, Import FBX, and go grab our other item. Just click on that to hide it. Or something you can also do is click on these little eye icons to hide something. Or if you want to hide an entire hierarchy, you can shift click on an eyeball and it'll hide everything up there. So that's what I'd like to do, and open FBX. Last one, we need our small clothes body. Alrighty, so we've got everything imported in here. You'll notice it is in black and white. This is usually how I like to view things. However, if you would like to see colors, then what you can do is go up here to Viewport Shading and click on Material Preview. However, you're going to get this weird transparent blocky looking thing, which is not what we want. What we do in fact want is to click on one of our offending blocky objects, go to Material Properties, which I just introduced you to, scroll down, whole lot, don't pay attention to any of that, you don't need it right now, and just say Blend Mode, Opaque. Look, we have a opaque mesh to start with. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for the other items that we've got here. Oh, where'd it go? Come on. Work with me here. Opaque. I feel like I'm missing one. I am in fact missing one. Okay. So now we've got all of our items sort of edited. And something I like to do is I like to turn the brightness up just a little bit. So I'm going to turn it up to 5 so we can see things a little better. Alright, still not sure what I want to do here, but we are going to figure it out as we go along. Alright, so first up, we're currently in object mode, which you can see at the top left. There are other modes, mainly edit mode. Here, I'll go into this one. Edit mode, which you can switch back and forth from with the tab key on your keyboard if you so desire. And then sculpt mode, which allows you to sort of sculpt and mess with things that way. Once again, Control-Z is your best friend. But yeah, edit mode allows you to move individual sort of vertices, like in and out, and also allows you to delete key vertices. So leave a giant hole in your mesh if you feel like it. There's vertices in edit mode. There's lines, which you can select by. And then there's faces. I personally like to use faces, but it's really a matter of personal preference. So what I think I'm going to do here for my first action is I am going to Shift H to hide everything that isn't our current working object. Then I am going to go into edit mode and I am going to just start whacking stuff. Let's delete some stuff and maybe mash up 2 items and get something cool. So you can select things by clicking and dragging, or if you want to use it, you can click and hold and get a select circle instead, if that is more comfortable to you. You can shift click to select more, and you can control click to select less. You can always click off to restart your selection. So one of my favorite hotkeys that I did not learn for a very long time is Control L. And what Control L does is it selects everything that is linked but in some manner to your selection. So if we go ahead and hit it, Control L, we'll get a little pop-up that says Select Linked All, and it's selected by seam. So you can see it's gone, and it's taken up everything. See if we do it again, Control L. Anything that is attached to our selection by seam. So let's see here. Let's just delete kind of this middle bit too. So it's really nice because you just have to get approximately close to where you want to delete things. You don't have to get everything. There's no pesky like hanging vertices where you've missed like one tiny dot. With Control L, you can just get pretty much a huge chunk in one go and not, oops, Control Z. Gonna get rid of these little dangling thingies. They're not really my style. And then once I've gotten good selection of stuff that I would like to yeet out the window, we're gonna go delete, and then we're gonna say faces. And look, we've got whole heck of a lot less stuff to work with. Looks like we missed some, so delete faces. And alrighty, we've got our outer piece. Still got our sleeves intact, and we're just gonna go ahead and shift click to select both of these and then delete hierarchy to get rid of that skin portion, because I don't think we need it, because what we have is an upscaled skin portion underneath, which has now made me see that I've missed some. Oops. Let's go back here and hide that, and then zoom in a little bit. Get rid of that. Yeah, so we've got our upscaled chest piece right there. Now, note that this can cause clipping. We will get to that. It's not our problem for right now, but we will get there. Alright, so we've messed with our first piece. Going to go ahead to our second piece and take this, Shift H to hide anything that isn't that. And once again, I am going to start selecting things. Control L. That looks a lot like what I need. We're going to be missing a couple faces, aren't we? Did I? Well, is this the whole object is my question? Let's take a look and see. Ooh, Alt H unhides everything, but that is not, I think, what we want for the moment. 2.5, does that add extra? No. Just gonna go through and click on these things until we get what we want. Oh, you know what I just realized? It's going to be partially hidden by the jacket anyway, so we don't really need the whole thing. So I'm just going to Control I to invert my selection, then delete faces. So now we just have this right here. Just going to go ahead and shift click and then delete hierarchy, shift click, delete hierarchy. So we just have this one item right here, which is conveniently already named 2.0. We like that. Alright. So we've got our remaining mesh. And what I'm now realizing is it's got extra space in the wrong spot. Huh. Okay, so if we hide this, we can do a little bit of a shenanigan right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode, hit A to select all, and I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. I'm also at the top. You can use this to snap to different views. So if you're rotating something around the Z axis, I like to go into the top Z view. so I get it just about right instead of something that's a little off. So like if you, because it rotates according to how you're facing it, so we have to be facing it from the very top. We're going to move it a little bit with the grab key, which is G, R for rotate, and that is in fact looking a bit better. Note that when we unhide our top, it's going to clip horribly, but you know what? Again, we're going to address this, actually I think right now. So I'm going to unhide our skin portion, and what I'm going to do, hide that, is go into sculpt mode. So with sculpt mode, you can affect a certain number of vertices at once and get sort of a gentle movement of vertices. With edit mode, you can just kind of like grab things and then grab them individually, which is nice if you want to make precise edits. But for reshaping things, sculpt mode is going to be your best friend. So if we go over here, we're going to go to the grab key, which is G. I'm going to set the size of this to 200 just out of personal preference because I like it to be a little chunkier. And then what you can do is if you are working on a mesh that is symmetrical, so it's the same on both sides, you can edit both of those sides at once with the mesh symmetry button right here. So you'll see now if I edit one side, it'll edit both, which is nice, but currently not what we want because we're working with this sort of asymmetrical blob of I've made a mistake. Got in a little bit over my head here, but you can do something much more simple and don't have to deal with the problems that I've created for myself. But I'm just going to click and drag and pan around a little bit, zoom in, zoom out, just make some adjustments. I'm going to try and go a little bit quick here. It doesn't have to be, well, for you it probably does have to be perfect because you're not really going to get another chance to reshape your model like this, or this is where most of the reshaping is going to happen. You can always come back to it. I'm not saying like it's going to get stuck or anything. But this is your chance to make things fit to your new body type. So just get it as close as possible. And what you're going to notice is there are a lot of, well, there's a huge difference in how high or low poly. So this one, you can see it's got, the vertices are like a mile apart. There's only a few of them. Then if we go to our other mesh, there's a whole lot more vertices, a whole lot more polygons to work with. We will come back to that. For now, just get it approximately close. However, okay, I said we were going to come back to that. I think the time for that is probably now, before we get any further with the sculpting. So I said we were going to be working with modifier properties. That's the little blue wrench. What we can do is we can add more polygons for us to work with. So if we add a modifier, and then we choose subdivision surface from right here, we're going to see it sort of warps itself a little bit. And what we don't really want that right now. We just want a simple deform. So we're going to click simple, or not deform. We want a simple subdivision. We don't want any deformation. So simple subdivision. Under advanced, we're going to scroll down and say use custom normals, because otherwise you're going to get seams and stuff's going to get ugly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click and apply the subdivision modifier and realize that we have a modifier with shape keys. You know what? We don't have any arm things on here. So as a rule of thumb, unless you're messing with the arm portion, you can just remove those shape keys and you will be able to apply the subdivision modifier. Sorry, shape keys, what they do is we'll show you over here. If you scroll them up, it's basically, it stores a deform of the, it stores a different shape for that part of the mesh to go into. So for example, if you have long gloves, then this will be applied. But like that one wasn't doing anything, so we're safe to get rid of it. But usually you want to keep those intact. So what you'll see now if we go into edit mode is some of these have more than 4 vertices to a shape, so it has not been triangulated. Final Fantasy is going to get really mad at you because it likes its triangles. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a triangulation modifier. You'll notice that the shading has changed a little bit, so we're just going to say keep normals on there. Then do the same, apply it, and look, we have more polygons to work with. Excellent! So, back into sculpt mode. Back into editing things. Ooh, do I want to cheat and show you guys the shrink wrap modifier? I think I do. This one's a little advanced, but what you can do is we can go add modifier, shrink wrap. We're going to say wrap method is, near surface point. Snap mode, we're going to say outside surface. Target item, we're going to use this little eyedropper. Say that, and it's going to snap to the surface of it. And then offset, we're going to say 0.005 maybe? Is that about right? There's still kind of a gap. 0.001? Too tiny. 0.025. Okay, we can adjust it from here. But you'll see what it's just done is it's sort of attached itself like a shrink wrap to our mesh. So we can sort of drag things around if we want to mess with it from here. And it will change how it attaches and where it attaches. You can't really drag things out from here, but you can. Well, let's just do 0.002. Make it a little bit closer and then manually adjust. But from here we can just apply it like we would do anything else. And you'll see we've got our thingy stuck to the mesh. This is extremely convenient if you are messing with anything that is skin tight. Not really helpful otherwise. But if you do have something that's skin tight, then shrink wrapping it to the mesh is going to be your best bet for reshaping it. I'm going to use the flatten tool a little bit to sort of smooth things out. Speaking of smoothing, there is a smooth brush, but it's really scary. It can sort of warp things in a way that will not look good, so be very, very careful if you are using the smooth tool. I'm not even going to show you where it is. If you're that determined, you'll figure it out yourself. It's right near the flatten tool, you'll find it. But in any case, we've got our thing reshaped significantly. Not quite perfect, but it doesn't have to be because most of it's going to be covered up. I'm just kind of a perfectionist. But we'll see. Oh, we'll see some clipping is what we will see. And rule of thumb, if you can't see it, yeet it. Delete it, get it out of here, just poof, delete key on your keyboard, and there it goes. If you're never going to see it, it doesn't need to be there. So, for example, we could delete this whole back portion of our whole back portion, Control L again for link. And, oh, it selected the front too. Drat. Thought I could get away with that easy. But if it clips a little bit, it's not the end of the world because we're going to fix it. Alrighty. It does need to be reshaped a little bit, so we're going to go back into sculpt mode. This one is symmetrical, so I'm going to enable mesh symmetry. Just going to drag some things down a little bit, make it fit a little bit better. Move that in. Then, yep, we did have some nip slippage going on over here. And I think that's about it for all this one needs reshaping. Back to our... Yeah, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import some testing animations using import FBX. Then I'm going to go find them. Where did I put them? Animations. We are going to get a loading Blender. Well, for starters. Uh-oh, spinning blue wheel of doom. There we go. There's our animations. That is odd. Why did it not pull the whole thing? Okay. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open a new Blender file. There are other ways to do this, but this one is probably the most beginner friendly. Give it a second because Blender is running alongside a whole bunch of other things right now. Oh, you know it's bad when the command line comes up to open Blender. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my animations blend file. Also give it a second. Sorry, I'm not on a NASA computer, I'm on a laptop. But we should see. There we go. So those little gray, or probably yellow for you, dots, those are our keyframes. If you're into animation, you'll know what that means, but if you don't, it's not really relevant. But I'm just going to copy with Control C. Then I'm going to go back over here and Control V to paste our animation keyframe. So if we hit spacebar, you'll see it's going to move a little bit. It's going to walk. It's going to run. Do some jumping. You can always hit Shift back arrow or this little fast backward option right here. So jump to endpoint, and it'll snap back to that nice T-pose. But we're going to go into the animation tab just for a little bit. It's a kind of scary looking one, but it doesn't hurt you, I promise. We're going to copy, here, right here. Oh, I'm in object mode. That would, oh no. Not the spinning wheel of doom again. Sorry. Animations can get a little hairy, I will tell you that much. I should probably have given the lighter testing one, but we're going to click on our key framed en route, our skeleton. We're going to go into pose mode. Then we're going to right click down here and say copy. Give my computer a little heart attack. You know, we really don't need this entire animation loop. I'm just gonna wait for it to do that and then Control Z until it goes away. What I'm actually going to do is import my old animation testing, which should be kills animations. Am I blind? I am. It's right there. We're going to go to animation tab once again, copy those keyframes. We're going to go to our, let's go to our destination top. So this one, go to that one, skeleton. So it's highlighted in orange. Go to pose mode. Insert a keyframe for whole character, and then paste those animations. So now we can safely get rid of our original animation file. And you'll notice, okay, so part of this body is now moving, but not the whole thing. That's kind of a problem. However, we can fix it. So just gonna clear transform all, insert keyframe whole character. So our first keyframe is going to be our T-pose. So if you ever mess up, you can just clear the pose. So right now what's happening is these other items, if you'll see in modifier properties, it's using a different armature. So if we set it to armature, I guess it's 2, armature 2, we can make it move a little funkily because it's a female animation on a male character, but we can make it move with the skeleton. Now what you'll notice is that part right there, that is clipping, my friends. That is a problem. Nuke it from orbit. You'll probably end up with some clipping too, depending on what you've been up to, but probably nothing quite as bad as this. And the reason mine is so bad is because what I did was I took part of the side and I rotated it. So it may look like it belongs there, but it really does not. So to get rid of this clipping, there's 2 ways, or 3 ways really, you can get rid of it. One is if you can't see it, delete it. What we could do is we could just delete the back portion of the skin. Nobody would ever know that it's not there to clip. It can't clip if it's nuked from orbit. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. Another way to do it is to sculpt mode and just add a little more clearance so it doesn't really clip. That's kind of the sketchy beginner's way to do it. But the way to really fix clipping issues is our friend weight painting. So, well, I say friend, but it's more like a Xenos type friend, so my friend, my enemy. Weight paint. Turned blue. Why is it blue? So, weight painting is a little scary. It puts the pain into painting, I will tell you that much. But what it does is it's, we're going to go over to object data properties so I can look at different bones. So weights are basically how much influence a certain bone has over that area of the mesh. So basically, this is a couple of the spine bones, which you can see are sort of horizontal, which they should not be. Or not horizontal, sort of slanted, diagonal, that's the word. Which they should not be. Because we want them to have like an even area of influence over this section. So the more red something is, it's a scale of like red to blue. The more red an area is, the more influence it has over that portion of the mesh. The more blue it is, the less influence that bone has. So I'm going to show you what the heck not to do. Just for example's sake. Let's take our left shoulder and let's sort of paint that entire area red. Let's see what that does. Well, I know what that does. You're going to find out. If we hit spacebar now, it is now moving with the shoulder. Would you look at that? Here, wait. It's moving with the shoulder. That is just fucked up in so many ways. Pardon my language. So don't do that. Control-Z is your friend. What we're going to do is we're actually going to overwrite the weights, so you don't need to mess with that anyway. You'll kind of... These are all skirt weights because this came with the skirt. But I'm just going to remove all those because I don't need them and I don't want to see them there. But what we're going to do, what we could do, is turn off front faces only, because otherwise what's going to happen is it'll only do one side of the mesh and it'll get funky and you'll have back faces clipping through front faces, and just uncheck that button. What we could do is we could get super fiddly with it, turn down our strength, and manually weight paint until it looks right and it moves right. However, that is going to take 12 years and going to be a pain in your arse. The more efficient way of transferring weights from one item to another so that they match is a data transfer modifier. So I think I have it right here. In the notes, it's got a picture of what your thing is going to look like, but I will walk you through it. So add modifier, data transfer. Here I'm just going to go into weight painting mode to, oops, we've put it on the wrong object. We meaning me. Weight paint, add modifier data transfer. So our source object, use that eyedropper again. It's going to be our source. You can just not touch anything down here, or don't touch anything until you get to vertex data. So you're going to click that and then click the drop down. And what we want to transfer is weight data for vertex groups. You'll see it moved just a little bit. So that is what we want. However, it still looks a little bit funky. You'll notice it's not quite accurate. So I'm going to set the mapping to nearest face interpolated, and you'll see that gets a whole lot nicer. You're going to want to hit generate data layers, so it's probably going to go blue again. But generate data layers means it will fill in any missing vertices that the source mesh has that your target mesh does not. But you'll see everything looks nice and horizontal now. Look at that, it's a thing of beauty. Just go ahead and apply the modifier. And now when it animates, our clipping is gone! Woohoo! Magical. Is really a thing of beauty. So that is my saving grace in weight painting. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back and say weights normalize all. So that for each vertex, the sum of all weights is 1. Basically, you're just going to want to click that, uncheck lock active. It probably shouldn't change anything if you've just transferred from a vanilla mesh, but it's good practice to just normalize things anyways. And then what we're going to hit is we're going to say limit total. You're going to see probably some weight vertex limited, for vertex weights limited. You're going to set that limit to 4, which it is by default, and subset all groups, which it also is by default. Final Fantasy gets mad if you don't do both of those things, so don't worry, TexTools will tell you. It will tell you many times, but yeah, so now we've got our mashup, it's moving properly, and I think we're pretty much ready to go. So, how do we prepare this for export? So, you know how I said this was named properly already? So something about names in Final Fantasy, we're going to go back to TexTools for a second. So materials, names, and groups. These all have things to do with each other, and more than you would think. So basically the name, like the number at the end of the name, like part 2.0 versus part 0.2, that determines which group it is. So for example, group 0 is the skin, group 1 is this part of the mesh, then group 2 is the second part of the mesh. So you'll see group 2 is named 2.0. And then parts within that group are going to be named 2.1, 2.2, etc. So each group can use a different material. It doesn't have to, but unless it is grouped differently, you can't use a different material for it. So for example, if I named everything 0.x, then it's all just going to be textured as skin, which we do not want. So naming things is very important. So we're going to leave group 2.0 where it is, and we're going to name our clothing mesh. We're going to name it part 1 point something. So just go through, rename your things. Then we've got our part 0 point something right here. And then something else you will notice is these are all in different sort of skeletons and in different groups. We don't want that because TexTools can only read one group, and it's going to get mad at you if you don't have them all under the same skeleton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the animation data just because we don't need to export that, and it's probably good to get rid of it now. We are going to make our skeleton for our destination item. It really doesn't matter which one you pick unless it has a skirt. In which case pick the one with the skirt. we're going to make our our skeleton visible. Then we are going to start clicking on things, so control click, until we've got everything selected that isn't already under that skeleton. Then we're going to shift click on that skeleton to highlight it last in the lightest color orange. And then we are going to parent object, where's the keep transform option? Yeah, nope, that's clear parent. Make parent object, I think. Sorry, I usually use the macro, which is Control P, and we're going to say object keep transform. And now we've seen that these all just moved under our skeleton. Yay, that's what we wanted. So we can just go ahead and right click, delete hierarchy, and get rid of those other two. Look at that, nice and clean, all in order, all different numbers. That is a thing of beauty if I ever seen one. So from here, what we need to do is we need to select the right skeleton, make sure they all have that right en route 002, because that's the only one we have. I think, oh, did we triangulate this? I think we triangulated this. We did in fact. If you've done your subdivision thing, then you do need to triangulate it. Don't worry, TexTools will also tell you if you've not done that. Yell at you in big red letters. So, best to do preventative measures. So, just gonna save it. Name it. I can spell, I swear. You probably should have saved before then. I am a bad influence. And then export as FBX. So we are almost ready, except for under armature on the right hand side, you're going to want to uncheck add leaf bones, because that will add extra bones to the end of your skeleton, and you don't really want that if you're going to be editing it in the future, and it's just going to be messy, and just uncheck it. Alright, you are officially done with the Blender portion of this. You're going to want to keep it open just in case so you can reference which numbers are which when we import. But from here, as I said, you can copy materials, which we are still going to need to do. So let's have this be our destination item right here, the Dogi item. So we're going to just Control X to get rid of that. And does anybody remember what that one was named? No? Okay. Shortcut, we can search by the item number. So that's E0348. We're going to go to by set, E0348. And look, there it is. Our item. So if you've forgotten what it was named, like I have a terrible memory, you can just go ahead and search by code instead. So how do we get this material from this item over to our destination item? So more options, edit material, and then copy material. You should see that paste button lights up after you've hit copy. I like to click it a few times because just like the crosswalk button, doesn't do anything, but it sure does feel fun. Then what you're going to want to do is go to the color set, because that weirdly doesn't get copied over. Sometimes it drives me nuts, but we can export our color set. Doesn't really matter what you pick from here. It's going to be exported as a color set file in any case. But we now have it copied. So back over to our, well, let's just 167. Huh? Which one is that? 167? 6167. I am struggling a little bit. There it is. Okay, so now what we're going to go do is we're going to go more options, add new material. Then we are going to paste our new material. Give it a save, and you'll see we have a new material option from this drop down right here, which is exactly what we wanted. And then we can't forget the color set, which is currently not correct. So we're going to import, go find our other material, and watch magically as the color set changes. Okay, so over to the model section, everything should be looking the same if you've done it right. If it loads. So now we're going to go to import and pick our item. So generally you can leave all of these unchecked unless you know what you're doing and you want to do something in particular, but just leave them all unchecked and go to Open Editor. Okay, sometimes you're going to get some, ooh, that's a nice thing to see. You're always probably going to get some warnings when you do a data transfer of the weights. So we wanted to keep that little number right there where it says 5 vertices had major corrections made to their weight data. We want to keep that number as small as possible. So that's what we did by saying limit total. 5 vertices is really stellar. I've seen it in the thousands before and it's not turned out well. So we are good to go. As long as you don't get any errors, you are free to move on. So first off, part 0 is our upscaled TBSE skin texture. Currently it's using the vanilla skin file path, so what we're going to do is we're going to say custom and switch that to material B. So part 1 is actually, here's the attribute section, part 1 is actually a neck, so we're going to add the attribute neck to it and remove anything that isn't accurate. So group 1 is material, okay, group 1 is actually material C. And part 1.1, that is not excess detail, that is an elbow. And part 1.2 is a wrist. So that's already there. And then for group 2, that's going to be our material B, I think. That's the one without the transparency, right? Material A? Material A. Okay. So then we're ready for import. UV2 data, that'll just mean you probably have a decal or like, what's it called? The, oh, please don't yell at me. Please be nice. Thank you. Close. And there we go. If you've done it, sorry, not decal, but like FC logo is what it is. Also, I apologize if you can hear my dog barking in the background. There is a UPS truck outside, so obviously a threat. In any case, if you've done this right, you should get all the materials in the right places. You'll notice there's some gaps right there, but I am too lazy to deal with that right now. I think we're good to go. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new mod pack. Generally, you want to use a standard mod pack unless you know exactly what you're looking for. I do know what I'm looking for, but I'm going to show you how to use the standard mod pack anyway. What we want is we want to look for our item, find it, select it. You can say all files, which will yoink the entire model, or sorry, the entire item, which it'll grab all of the models, even the ones that you haven't edited. So what I like to do is I like to select by model and just pick our Midlander male. So we'll see we've got our model file, our 2 material files, and our 4 texture files. And if we confirm, it's 7 total files, which is a reasonable file size, or a reasonable mod pack size. We're going to say it is a mashup, not a mod pack. I cannot type, I swear. Author, put your name, because you've just done something. Put the version number, it's going to be mad if you don't. And then I like to say create as a basic mod pack. If you say advanced, then you get to add a description, but I just like to use basic. And create mod pack, and you're good to go. So don't forget to clean up after yourself once you're done. Generally, I would advise testing the heck out of this in-game first, making any necessary changes, playing whack-a-mole with errors. But I am feeling confident in myself today, and I'm going to just do help, start over, and wipe what I have done because I've exported it. So, this will wipe your drive, or not drive. I sure hope it's not going to wipe the drive. It's going to wipe your Final Fantasy install and make it clean and unmodified again. So if you use TexTools as your main mod loader, do not do this, or you will just wipe all your mods. But if you use Penumbra, then that is what you want. So, thank you all for watching. I think that about concludes our lesson.